Some people spend years swallowing their own dignity just to keep the peace. I was one of them. My name is Daniel Parker. I'm 32 years old. 3 weeks ago, I stood in a ballroom filled with 150 people, my father's colleagues, business partners, and family friends, and watched my mother lean into a microphone and say, "At least Daniel found a husband, even if we don't know what he does for a living." The room laughed. My father smiled, my sister smirked, and my husband, Marcus, the man this entire family had dismissed as a nobody for 4 straight years, slowly pushed back his chair and stood up. What happened next made my father's most powerful business partner drop her wine glass. It made my mother go pale, and it made my sister finally understand why I had never once, not a single time, asked our parents for money. But to understand that moment, you need to understand everything that came before it. It started 6 years ago. I was 26, completely drained from a long day of parent-teacher conferences, running on nothing but the hope of caffeine. The coffee shop near my school was packed, but one seat was open, across from a man typing furiously on his laptop. I asked if I could sit. He looked up, dark eyes, warm smile. "Please." We barely spoke that first day. He worked. I graded papers. But as I stood to leave, he said, "Same time tomorrow." I came back. So did he. For 2 solid months, we shared that table. He told me he worked in education. I told him I taught third grade. He never asked about my family's money. I never asked about his. It was the first time in my life that someone truly saw me, not my father's reputation, not my sister's shadow, just me. When Marcus finally asked me to dinner, I said yes before he could even finish the sentence. 2 years of simple, honest dates, farmers markets, movie nights, him cooking for me in his small apartment. I fell in love with the way he listened, not just heard, but actually listened. When he proposed, I didn't tell my parents for 3 weeks. I already knew exactly what was coming. "He works in education," my mother's voice soaked in disappointment. "What does that even mean?" "It means he helps children learn," I said. "So he's a teacher, like you," she sighed. "Daniel, I had such hopes for you." Marcus never pushed me to explain more about what he did. Once, when I asked him why, he took my hand and said quietly, "I don't want your family to value me for what I have. I want them to value me for who I am." I didn't fully understand that then, but I would. The warning signs were always there. I just refused to see them. Every holiday, every birthday dinner, the same performance played out without fail. My mother would beam at my sister Madison. "Tell everyone about the Henderson deal, $2 million. And the whole table would lean in like she was announcing a scientific breakthrough. Then my mother would turn to me. "And Daniel, you're still teaching?" She said teaching, the way someone might say, wasting your life. "Third grade," I'd answer. "I have this one student. He couldn't read 6 months ago. Last week he finished his first full chapter book." "That's sweet, dear." She'd already be looking at her phone. "Last spring, my students performed a play they had spent months building. Memorized lines, hand-painted sets, costumes sewn from cardboard and glitter. I called my father personally. "Dad, it's on the 15th at 3 o'clock. I'd really love for you to be there." He checked his calendar. "I have real meetings, Daniel. Maybe next time." He had visited Madison's office 12 times that same year. I counted every single one. The week before the play, Madison leaned close to me at Sunday brunch and whispered, loud enough for the table to catch every word, "You know Dad's disappointed in you, right? You had the same opportunities I did." Marcus was sitting right beside me. He heard everything. That night, he held me close and said, "Your worth is not theirs to decide." I wanted desperately to believe him. Then the retirement party invitation arrived. An email, not even a proper card. While Madison received a hand-calligraphed note delivered by courier, my mother phoned about seating. She placed us at table 14, back corner, right beside the kitchen doors. "We have important guests, the Walshes, the Hendersons, people your father actually works with." Before she hung up, she added, "Daniel, dress nicely, and please don't spend the evening talking about your little school. These people have real careers." 3 days later, I found an email my mother had accidentally forwarded to me, originally sent to Madison. "Make sure Daniel is seated at the back table. We don't want his husband making conversation with the Walshes. God knows what he'd say about his education work." I read it 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper. That was the moment I finally understood something I had been refusing to face for years. Silence is not peace. Silence is permission. Permission for them to keep diminishing me, keep dismissing Marcus, keep treating us like we were something to be hidden away in the back corner of their perfect world. Marcus sat beside me that night, took my hand, and said calmly, I have stayed quiet for 4 years because you asked me to. But if they hurt you again, I will not just sit there. There was something in his voice I had never heard before, steady, certain, unmovable. The night before the party, I lay awake thinking about the future we were building together, about the children Marcus and I had talked about someday. What would I teach them? To smile while being humiliated? To stay silent while being erased? To measure their value by job titles and bank accounts? Absolutely not. So why was I still teaching those exact lessons to myself? Something had to change, and tomorrow night, my father's retirement party, that was going to be the turning point, one way or another. The grand ballroom of the Hartwell Hotel was everything my father loved. Excessive, expensive, and built entirely to impress. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, a 12-piece orchestra playing jazz so soft it almost disguised the arrogance in the air. 150 guests in designer gowns and tailored suits, all gathered to celebrate Robert Parker's 40 years of self-congratulation. Marcus and I arrived at 7. He wore a simple navy suit. I wore a black dress I had bought on sale 3 years ago. At the entrance, my mother stood receiving guests like a queen greeting subjects. She wore emeralds. Actual emeralds. Her eyes landed on me, then slid immediately to Marcus. "Daniel, you came." "It's Dad's retirement, Mom." A tight, forced smile. "Table 14, in the back." "We know." We moved through the crowd. I felt the glances, heard the murmurs. Parker's son, the teacher, married to nobody special. Near the stage, Madison stood in a red designer gown with diamond earrings, positioned beside our father like she was the actual guest of honor. She spotted me and gave a small, dismissive wave, a flutter of fingers that somehow managed to feel like a dismissal. "Table 14, Marcus said quietly. "How convenient." It was worse than I had imagined, not just near the kitchen, practically inside it. Every time a server walked past, we had to pull our chairs in. As we sat down, the woman at the next table turned around. Sharp eyes, expensive suit, Jennifer Walsh, one of my father's most significant business partners. She looked at Marcus, frowned slightly, tilted her head. "Have we met?" she asked him. "I don't think so," Marcus said politely. Jennifer kept staring. She pulled out her phone and began scrolling slowly. Something crossed her face. Surprise first, then recognition. But before she could speak, the lights dropped. My father moved toward the stage. Then Madison appeared at our table, champagne glass in hand like it was a weapon. "Daniel, you actually showed up." "Why wouldn't I?" "Just surprised, that's all. These events aren't really your scene." Her eyes shifted to Marcus. "Nice suit. Outlet?" "No," Marcus said calmly. "Just simple." "Simple." She smiled at her own cleverness. "Marcus, remind me. What exactly do you do?" "I work in education." "Education." She let the word hang there like something worthless. "So like tutoring? Sat prep? Something like that? Birds of a feather, I suppose." She laughed at her own joke. "Well, at least you have each other." The heat rose through my chest. My hands were trembling beneath the table. And Marcus, calm, quiet, composed Marcus, finally stopped being quiet. My mother's smile was still spreading across her face when Marcus's hand tightened around mine. I looked at him. His expression was stone. Up on stage, my father commanded the room the way he always had, confident, polished, built for applause. 40 years, he began. 40 years of building something from nothing. The crowd leaned in. He thanked my mother, his rock, his partner, and everything. She pressed a hand to her chest like she'd rehearsed it. Then his voice swelled with genuine pride. "And my daughter Madison, my legacy. Senior Vice President at 28. The future of Parker Real Estate." Madison rose slightly from her seat, accepting the applause like she'd just won an award she'd always deserved. Cameras flashed. My father beamed. "Of course, family is more than business," he continued. "I'm blessed with 2 children." My heart lifted for one foolish second. His eyes found me across the ballroom. He smiled, the smile he reserved for difficult clients. "And Daniel, my eldest." A pause. Too long. He's still trying to figure out what to do with his life. Scattered laughter. Awkward, uncomfortable. "But we love him anyway." He said it like a punchline. 150 people looked at me, some pitying, some amused, some simply curious about the lesser child. Marcus's grip tightened. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. My father had already moved on, but Jennifer Walsh hadn't. She sat at the next table staring at Marcus, not casually, not politely, but with the focused intensity of someone solving a puzzle. She kept glancing at her phone, then back at him, scrolling, zooming, comparing. Finally, she leaned across the gap between our tables. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I have to ask, have we really never met?" "I don't believe so," Marcus said. She held up her phone, showing him something on the screen. "Is this—" "Jennifer," My father's voice cut through the room. Care to share with the class? She snapped her phone down. Just checking emails, Robert. Always working. That's why I love you, Jen. The moment passed, but I saw Jennifer glance back at Marcus twice more. I saw the barely concealed shock on her face, the way her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She knew something, or thought she did. Marcus, I whispered. What was she looking at? Nothing important. She recognized you. He squeezed my hand. Let it go for now. For now. What did that mean? 3 hours earlier, before we left for the party, Marcus had reached into his briefcase and pulled out a plain white envelope, thick, official looking, and slid it into the inside pocket of his jacket. What's that? I'd asked. Insurance. Insurance for what? He looked at me steadily. For you, in case they go too far. I hadn't asked what was inside. Part of me didn't want to know. Now, watching my mother take the microphone with that practiced, predatory smile, I thought about that envelope. I want to say something about family, she announced, scanning the room. Her gaze landed on Madison, warmly, on various guests, politely, on me, with something that looked almost like contempt. Our youngest, Madison, has made us so proud, building an empire, following in her father's footsteps. Cameras flashed, glasses rose. And then there's Daniel. My stomach dropped. Our eldest has taken a different path. He teaches elementary school, 3rd grade, I think. Or is it 2nd now? 3rd, I said quietly, from table 14, where no one could hear me. But you know what? She paused, smiling at the room. At least he found a husband. Another pause, perfectly timed. Even if we don't know what he does for a living. The ballroom erupted. Something broke inside me. Not my heart, my patience. Beside me, Marcus slowly reached into his jacket. My father took the microphone back, still smiling. Now, Helen, be nice. Daniel has his own talents. He said talents the way someone says quirks about a troublesome child. Some people are meant to lead, others are meant to support. We offered him positions at the company, offered to pay for his MBA, but Daniel chose, well, whatever it is, he chose. Sympathetic murmurs from the crowd. But that's family, right? You love them anyway, even when they don't meet your expectations. He raised his glass. To family, complicated as they may be. 150 glasses lifted. I sat at the table by the kitchen while everyone toasted to my failure. Then I noticed Marcus's chair was empty. He was standing, walking, calm, measured, deliberate, straight toward the stage. Heads turned, whispers rippled. Who is that? My father noticed. His smile faltered. Can I help you? Marcus stepped onto the stage. He looked out at the room. Investors, partners, people who had never once asked his name. Then he leaned into the microphone. May I have a moment? The room went silent. I'm sorry. Who are you? My father asked. I'm Marcus, Daniel's husband, the one you don't know anything about. My mother moved toward the microphone. This really isn't the time. I think it's exactly the time. His voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of that ballroom. For 4 years, I've sat at the back of your holiday dinners. I've listened to your family mock my career. I've watched you dismiss your son like he's somehow worth less than the rest of you, and I stayed silent because Daniel asked me to. He looked across the ballroom at me. His eyes were steady, soft. I won't stay silent anymore. Madison pushed through the crowd, champagne sloshing. This is insane. Who does this guy think he is? Excellent question, Marcus said calmly. Thank you for asking. He reached into his jacket pocket, the envelope, but he didn't pull it out, not yet. He straightened his tie, faced the audience, and said 4 words that made Jennifer Walsh gasp and cover her mouth with both hands. My name is Marcus Smith Parker. The room held its breath. Even my father looked uncertain now. What company? He asked. Marcus smiled. Before he could answer, Madison grabbed the microphone. Okay, enough. She stepped between Marcus and the crowd, playing to the room now. Daniel, come get your husband. He's embarrassing himself. I'm not finished, Marcus said. Yes, you are. Her voice dripped with contempt. Look, I get it. You feel defensive, but let's be honest. She turned to the audience, performing now. Daniel married someone who probably earns less than my assistant. That's fine. Not everyone can aim high. Someone laughed. A loud, braying laugh from the back of the room. Maybe he tutors kids. Maybe he grades papers. Whatever working in education actually means. She made air quotes with her fingers. The point is, this is Dad's night. Marcus reached back into his jacket. This time he pulled out the envelope. Marcus took the microphone. No smug expression, no anger, just calm. The kind of calm that silences a room without raising its voice. "You're right," he said. "This isn't my night, but it became my night the moment your family publicly humiliated my husband in front of 150 people." Madison rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, so dramatic." "I work in education," Marcus continued, unbothered. "You're right about that, but I don't grade papers. I don't tutor." He let the silence stretch. "I build educational platforms, technology that helps millions of children learn. My company is called EduSpark." Someone in the crowd gasped, and everything changed. The name moved through that ballroom like electricity. I watched it happen in real time. Confusion first, then recognition, then shock. A man at table 3 typed frantically on his phone and showed his wife. Her eyes went wide. A woman near the stage pressed her hand to her heart. Jennifer Walsh rose to her feet. "Robert." Her voice was sharp, direct. "Do you have any idea who this is?" My father looked genuinely lost. What?" EduSpark, the educational technology company, valued at $200 million. Forbes cover story, 3 months ago. The murmurs intensified. 200 million. Forbes. Madison's face moved from smug to confused to something approaching horror. That's not possible." "I assure you," Marcus said. "It's very possible." My mother grabbed my father's arm. "Robert, did you know?" "Of course I didn't know. Daniel never told us." "You never asked." Marcus's voice cut clean through the room. 4 years. Not once did you ask me a single real question. About my work, about my life, about anything. You assumed I was nobody because I didn't brag, because I didn't drop names or flash money, because I sat quietly at your holiday dinners and refused to perform for you. The room was absolutely still. No one moved. No one breathed. Last year, Forbes named me one of their 30 under 30 in education. I've been interviewed by CNN, MSNBC, and the Wall Street Journal. I've had lunch with senators and shaken hands with 2 presidents. He looked directly at Madison. "I don't make less than your assistant, but even if I did, that would never justify what you said about my husband." Jennifer Walsh pushed to the front. "I knew I recognized you. TechCrunch, last summer, the article about democratizing education." She turned to my father, accusation burning in her eyes. "Robert, I've been trying to get into edtech for months. The opportunity was literally sitting at your dinner table." My father's composure was fracturing in real time. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out the envelope. "But that's not why I'm up here." He opened it, removed a thick official document, and held it up so the entire room could see the EduSpark logo at the top, his signature at the bottom, a school name highlighted in yellow. "This is a contract. A $5 million grant to fund STEM programs in underprivileged schools across Massachusetts." $5 million. The number rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. "The first recipient," Marcus said, and he looked at me across that ballroom, eyes shining, "is Lincoln Elementary, Daniel's school." Tears fell down my face before I could stop them. Not because of the money, not because of the status, because for the first time in my entire life, someone was standing in front of my family and saying out loud, "Daniel matters." "Your son," Marcus continued, his voice cracking slightly, "teaches children who have nothing. He shows up every single day for kids that the world has forgotten. He spends his own money on supplies. He stays late for struggling readers. He changes lives." He paused. "And you called him a disappointment?" He looked at my parents, my father gray-faced, my mother clutching her pearls. "I work in education. I just happen to own the company." He stepped away from the microphone and walked toward me. The crowd parted in silence. I stood. My legs were shaking. When he reached me, he took both my hands. "I'm sorry I didn't do this sooner," he said quietly. "I kept hoping they'd see you, the way I see you." "I've never been prouder to be your husband." Behind us, my mother's voice came out trembling. "Daniel, honey, why didn't you tell us?" And there it was, the question that contained everything wrong with my family. I turned to face her. Would it have mattered? Of course it would have. Really? Something hardened inside me, not anger, clarity. "You've been dismissing me for 32 years. You made me feel worthless at every turn. You just called my husband a nobody in front of everyone you know. If Marcus were actually broke, if he really were a tutor, would your behavior have been okay?" My mother opened her mouth, closed it. "That's what I thought." My father stepped forward, business instincts already running. "Marcus, I had no idea. We should talk. Perhaps a partnership." No. The word dropped like a stone. The opportunity was 4 years ago, Marcus said, when you could have treated your son with basic respect. We didn't assume. You sat us by the kitchen. You forwarded an email telling Madison to keep us away from your important guests. My mother went pale. She'd forgotten about that email. How did you? Daniel showed me, the one you accidentally sent him. For the first time, my parents had no spin, no excuse, just the raw, exposed truth of what they had done. I stepped forward. This was my moment, my voice. You've spent my entire life making me feel like I don't fully belong in this family. Tonight, you found out my husband is successful. By your definition, wealthy, powerful, influential. I looked directly at them. But that shouldn't change anything. The way you treated me was wrong before you knew about his company. And the fact that you're only interested now that there's money involved, proves exactly what I always suspected. My mother had tears in her eyes, real ones, performed ones. I couldn't tell anymore. I looked at all of them. My father, my mother, my sister somewhere in the crowd trying to disappear. I have a job that matters, a husband who loves me, a life I built without your approval. From this point forward, respect is the minimum requirement. Not optional, not conditional, just basic respect. I took Marcus's hand. If you can give me that, we can try again. If you can't, then this is goodbye. We turned and walked out. 150 people watched us leave. We didn't speak until we were in the car. Marcus drove. I stared out the window, watching city lights blur through my tears. Are you okay? He finally asked. I don't know. I wiped my face. I feel empty, like I've been carrying something heavy for years and I finally put it down. That's not empty, he said. That's what light feels like. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing. 23 missed calls, 14 from my mother, 6 from my father, 3 from Madison, my mother's voicemail. Honey, please come back. This was all a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding, like she'd accidentally mispronounced my name. My father's was shorter. Marcus seems like a great guy. Let's have dinner. I have some ideas about... I deleted it before he finished pitching. Madison's text I read aloud to Marcus. I can't believe you hid this from us. That's so selfish. He shook his head slowly. She still thinks she's the victim. I turned my phone off that night in the car. The silence settled gently around us. Do you regret it? I asked. Staying quiet for so long? Marcus reached over and took my hand. Sometimes, but I didn't do it for them. I did it for you, because you asked me to. I stared at the road ahead, dark, uncertain. Tonight, I said quietly. I finally said what I needed to say. Are you glad? Not yet, I admitted. But I think I will be. The fallout started the next morning. Jennifer Walsh called Marcus at 8 a.m. I listened from the kitchen. She apologized for the evening, called what happened appalling, then mentioned she'd been trying to get a meeting with EduSpark for 6 months, going through my father thinking he had connections. Turns out the connection was sitting at his son's table the whole time. After she hung up, Marcus looked at me. Jennifer was your father's biggest potential investor. Was? She withdrew her interest in his development project this morning. I didn't feel satisfied, but I didn't feel guilty either. Over the next week, the story spread through Boston's business community like fire through dry paper. Robert Parker's family had publicly humiliated a $200 million CEO at his own retirement party. 2 deals my father had spent months building fell through. The partners cited concerns about judgment and reputational alignment. In business, reputation is currency. And that night, my father's account was overdrawn. Madison was quietly removed from the Henderson project. Too much awkwardness, apparently. She blamed me. Sent a long, furious text about how I had destroyed everything. I didn't respond. The most revealing call came from my father's PR team. They wanted to know if Marcus would consider a joint statement, something about healing family rifts and moving forward. Marcus declined without hesitation. There's nothing to spin, he told them. The truth is the truth. 1 week after the party, Uncle George called. George was my father's older brother, the one who had walked away from Parker Real Estate 30 years ago to become a high school principal, the one my father used to call the family disappointment before I inherited that title. Daniel. His voice was warm, familiar. I heard about the retirement party. I'm sure you did. I've been telling your father for years he was wrong about you. Something loosened in my chest. You have? Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every time he made some comment about your teaching job, he never listened. Your father only hears what he wants to hear. Why didn't you ever say anything to me? He paused. because I didn't want to interfere, and honestly, I wasn't sure you'd believe me. A long breath. But what Marcus did, standing up for you like that took guts. And what you did, Daniel, standing up for yourself at the end, that took even more. I started crying, not sad tears, something else entirely. Release. I'm proud of you, kid. I always have been. I just wish I'd said it sooner. Thank you, I managed. Family isn't about blood, he said quietly. It's about who shows up for you. Marcus showed up, and so did you, for yourself. After we hung up, Marcus found me on the couch, still crying. Good tears? He asked. Good tears. He sat beside me, arm around my shoulders. Not everyone in your family gave up on you. I know, I said. I'm finally starting to see that. 3 weeks later, I agreed to meet my parents. I chose a coffee shop, neutral ground, public enough that everyone would have to behave. They were already there when I arrived. They looked older somehow, smaller. My father wore a polo shirt instead of his usual suit. My mother's jewelry was conspicuously absent. I sat across from them. Marcus had offered to come. I told him no. This was something I needed to do alone. Thank you for meeting us, my father said, stiff, rehearsed. Thank you for respecting my choice of location. My mother leaned forward. Daniel, we want to start over. Starting over requires acknowledging what went wrong. Silence. They exchanged glances. We were hard on you, my father admitted, because we wanted more for you. No, I said calmly. You were hard on me because I didn't fit your definition of success. There's a difference. My mother's eyes filled. We just wanted you to have security. I have security. I have stability, just not the kind you respect. We do respect. You called my husband a nobody in front of 150 people. You seated us by the kitchen. You forwarded emails about keeping us away from your important guests. She had nothing to say to that. I'm not here for apologies, I continued. Words are easy. I'm here to tell you what changes. Basic respect, real questions, genuine interest in my life, not just when it benefits you. I looked at both of them. I'll give you a chance, but it's conditional. Respect first, always. My father cleared his throat. We can do that. We'll see, I said. That night, Marcus and I sat on our balcony. The city glittered below us. A bottle of wine between us, half empty. The sounds of the city drifted up. Distant traffic, someone laughing somewhere, a dog barking in the dark. How do you feel? He asked. I thought about it, really thought. Like I'm finally starting over, not with them, with myself. Any regrets? Only that I waited so long. I leaned into him, feeling his warmth, his steadiness, the same steadiness that had been there from the very first day across a coffee shop table. All those years. I said quietly. I thought I needed their approval to feel like I mattered, and now I realize I always mattered. I just needed to believe it myself. Marcus kissed the top of my head. You changed thousands of children's lives. You showed up every single day for kids nobody else cared about. I know, I said, and for the first time in 32 years, I actually believed it. I thought about my students, about the STEM program that would change their futures, about the life I had built with my own hands and my own heart. I thought about my parents. Maybe they would change, maybe they wouldn't. But either way, I was done waiting for their permission to feel whole. The people who truly love you don't make you prove your worth. They celebrate it. Marcus had taught me that. And now finally, I was teaching it to myself. You know what? I said. What? I smiled. Really smiled. The kind that starts somewhere deep and works its way up. I think I'm going to be okay. And for the first time in 32 years, I meant every word.